My mom didn't pull me aside for some heartfelt conversation. She hauled my suitcase out to the driveway, flipped it open, and began dumping my clothes into a plastic trash can like she was clearing out old leftovers. I stood there in my work shoes, still reeking of coffee and syrup from the brunch shift, watching my life pile up next to the recycling. I'm Emily. I'm 24. And that bedroom was the only thing that made it possible for me to stay and help keep my family's small diner running. But my mom wouldn't even meet my eyes when she said it. You're grown now. You don't get to stay here anymore. Your brother's wife needs the room. You're just in the way. Behind her, I could see perfectly manicured hands resting on the window frame, already picturing it as a studio, a backdrop, a prop. No one asked where I was supposed to sleep that night, how I was meant to finish my online classes, or who would manage the social media and delivery apps that kept the diner alive. My brother walked right past me, grabbed another box, and said I was overreacting when I flinched as my laptop nearly hit the pavement. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I didn't throw anything back. I gathered what was left of my things, set the rest on the curb, and walked away without a word. 2 weeks later, before dawn, they were the ones outside my door with puffy eyes and trembling voices, begging me to save them. And the first thing I did was grab my phone and say, "Hi, I think there are some strangers causing trouble outside my apartment. If you think that sounds cold, wait until you hear what happened in between." I didn't cry on that driveway. I waited until I was in the back of an Uber, watching the house I grew up in fade in the rearview mirror before I let myself feel anything. My friend Rachel opened the door to her tiny downtown apartment in an oversized hoodie, hair in a bun, eyes wide when she saw me standing there with 2 bags and a trash sack of clothes. She didn't ask what happened. She just said, "Take my bed. I will take the couch. We will figure it out tomorrow." The next morning, when sunlight slipped through the cheap blinds and my back ached from sleeping wrong, reality finally landed. My whole life had revolved around that diner and that house. I knew every regular's coffee order, every holiday rush rhythm, every dumb glitch in the delivery app. And in one night, my family decided I was expendable. Instead of falling apart, I opened my laptop and started a list. Every account I had set up for the diner was tied to my email, my passwords, my effort, the website, the Instagram, the TikTok, the email newsletter, the connections with local roasters and food bloggers. Every bit of it was there because I built it myself. My mom Linda liked to say she was too old for all that online stuff and that I was the tech brain. My brother Jason barely knew what an ad manager was. His wife Ashley, my brand new sister-in-law, honestly thought a few latte art selfies could keep a business running. I spent 12 non-stop hours fixing the damage they had done to my life. I signed into every platform, cut off their access, updated recovery emails, and downloaded copies of every report and analytic I had ever produced. I did not sabotage anything. I did not erase their pages or lock them out of their own business accounts. I simply reclaimed what was mine, the work I created and was never properly paid for. When Rachel got home from her shift at Coastal Grind, the big modern cafe downtown, she found me buried in notebooks and open tabs. She listened as I told her everything, from the trash bin by the driveway to the words, "You do not deserve to be here." She was furious for me. She told me to drag them online, to expose how they treated me, to let the internet tear them apart. But I shook my head. If I burned it all down, I would look bitter and unstable, and they would still label me ungrateful. I did not want to fight on their level. I wanted them to feel what happened when the person they treated like a maid and a backup plan simply vanished. We checked my savings. Between my diner shifts and my side gigs designing logos and running small ad campaigns for local businesses, I had enough to last a couple months if I stayed careful. Splitting rent with Rachel would be tight, but she said we would make it work. Then she said something that stuck. Coastal Grind has been trying to grow their social media and events. You already built a full brand. Why waste that on people who dumped your work in a trash can? That night I checked their site, their feed, their branding, their menu. It was solid, but it could be sharper. More importantly, they were the main competition to my mom's diner. Not by location, but by the crowd they attracted. Younger people, remote workers, tourists. If I was starting over, why not start where it would hurt my family the most without touching them directly? The next day I sent my resume with a case study I wrote in one sitting, breaking down how I grew my mom's diner page from almost nothing to fully booked weekends. I did not say my family kicked me out. I just showed numbers, strategy, screenshots. When Coastal Grind replied asking to meet, it felt like breathing again after being underwater. I was not planning some dramatic revenge scene. I was building a career, a life where my work actually belonged to me. But deep down I knew one thing. My family thought I was the weak link. They were about to learn what happened when the person they called a burden stopped holding their world together. Coastal Grind didn't feel like a job on day one. It felt like stepping into a whole new reality. The space was all glass, greenery, and sharp lines, sunlight pouring in from the street, laptops spread across every table. Rachel greeted me at the entrance, apron already tied, and walked me over to the manager, a tall guy named Ethan with worn eyes and that steady tone you only hear from someone who survived years in hospitality. He'd already gone through my case study. He asked me 3 things about dealing with bad reviews, flaky influencers who don't show, and last-minute pivots. Then he said, "We could really use someone like you." They brought me on as a part-time marketing coordinator with a promise of more hours if it worked out. It was more than I'd ever had officially at my mom's diner. By the end of the first week, I was mapping out our first Sunrise Sundays series, mellow jazz, specialty pancakes, and a limited cold brew flight designed to look perfect on camera. I sat in the back office and pulled out every tool I'd once used for my family, this time with people who actually valued them. I built a content calendar. I cleaned up their profiles. I made flyers and email blasts that looked polished instead of slapped together at midnight. And because I knew the area, I recognized usernames in the comments. Regulars who used to eat at my mom's place started leaving little notes. "Wait, are you the Emily from Harbor Sunrise Diner? You're killing it here." Slowly, they started stopping by Coastal Grind just to see it, then hanging around, then bringing friends. I never told them not to return to the diner. I just made sure that if they had to choose between a spot that ignored their DMs and one that remembered their name and go to drink, the decision felt easy. While my life was sliding into something new, the old house barely reached out. The one time my mom texted, it was short and cold. "What is the password to the diner's Instagram? I can't get in. Ashley wants to post." I stared at my phone for a full minute. She didn't ask where I was living or if I was working. Just about access. I replied, "Those accounts are under my name and my business. You can make your own." Then I blocked her number. A few days later, Rachel came back from a grocery run, smiling hard. "You are not going to believe this," she said, dropping onto the couch. She'd bumped into one of our old neighbors near the house. Apparently, Ashley was already planning a huge makeover. She wanted to tear down the cozy curtains in my old bedroom, paint everything white, install a full wall mirror, and build a custom vanity with built-in lights so she could film skincare routines and soft girl morning vlogs. The contractor's estimate was about $10,000. My mom hesitated for maybe a second over the price. Then Jason jumped in. He told her it was an investment, that Ashley's followers would bring more customers, that the diner had to look modern to survive. I almost laughed when Rachel told me that part. Ashley barely had a few hundred followers and somehow convinced herself that made her an influencer. My mom, who had zero clue how any of that stuff actually worked, bought into the dream completely. They took money out of the diner savings, the same savings I helped grow by locking in better supplier contracts and running campaigns that actually worked. I kept picturing them debating backsplash tiles and ring lights while, over at Coastal Grind, I was pitching a partnership with a local roaster that would genuinely drive foot traffic. The first Sunrise Sunday sold out the cold brew flight before noon. Customers tagged us non-stop, posting latte art and shots of the view through those big windows. Ethan stared at the metrics and laughed in disbelief. "You pulled all of this off at your mom's place on your own?" he asked. I shrugged. "Pretty much," he said. "Then this is only the start." That same week, one of our old delivery drivers came into Coastal Grind with a different logo on his jacket. He told me my mom's diner cut him after Ashley claimed she could handle deliveries herself using friends and cheap apps. Everything slowed down, orders got screwed up. Then a one-star review popped up saying the food arrived late and cold and that whoever ran the Instagram replied with attitude instead of an apology. I recognized that voice instantly. Pure Ashley. I did not say anything, but a small, cold sense of satisfaction settled in my chest. They wanted me gone so badly they dumped my stuff in the trash. Now they were paying strangers to do a worse job than I ever did for free. At night, curled up on Rachel's couch with a blanket over my legs and my laptop on my knees, I watched Coastal Grind's numbers climb and wondered how long it would take my mom to realize what she had thrown away. I did not reach out. I did not check their pages. Even when curiosity hit hard, I just kept building. Because when you pull the keystone out of something, you do not need to shove anything else. You just wait and listen for the cracks. I thought the worst they could do was toss my things and take my room. Turns out I underestimated how fast greed can spiral. A couple weeks into my new role at Coastal Grind, Rachel came home late, dropped her bag, and said, "Okay, you need to hear this." She had gone back to our old block to see a cousin who lived a few houses from my mom. Word around the neighborhood was that turning my old room into a studio was not enough for Ashley. After the vanity went in and the white paint dried, she decided the lighting still was not content-friendly and that the real cash would come from launching a full wellness spa. Not in a proper commercial space, not renting like a normal business, but inside my mom's garage. She wanted a mini sauna, a soaking tub, a massage table, a yoga and morning routine corner, plus a separate entrance so clients would not have to walk through the house. The contractor's estimate for turning the garage into something new came out to $15,000, and that didn't even cover furniture or decor. My mom nearly passed out when she heard the figure. She tried to argue they had to be cautious since the diner's savings had already taken a hit after the bedroom remodel. But Jason, who had always been the family favorite, defended his wife like it was a battlefield. He told my mom she was thinking too old school, that if they didn't spend now they'd fall behind, that Ashley's brand would finally put the diner on the map. I almost gagged when Rachel echoed that line. Ashley's brand. This was the same girl who slapped hashtags on every post with 5 different misspellings of the word aesthetic. Even so, my mom gave in. She signed off on a high-interest personal loan and dipped into the diner's emergency fund. She convinced herself it was for family, for the future, for growth. Nobody brought up the fact that the person who had actually built the diner's online presence enough to even have an emergency fund was crashing on a pull-out couch across town. While they fought over tile choices, I was tucked away in the back office at Coastal Grind, putting together a real loyalty program. I analyzed customer habits, A/B tested email subject lines, and locked in a small sponsorship with a local podcast. When we rolled out our app and people started earning free drinks and brunch items, the reaction was immediate. Regulars turned into hype machines, pulling in coworkers and friends just to stack points. Every time my phone buzzed with a new sign-up, it felt like another piece of my new life snapping into place. Then reality hit when Jason tried to sell my mom on the spa fantasy. He had sworn his connections at the showroom would score discounted equipment and fixtures. What he didn't plan for was how management would respond to his wife showing up at the showroom 3 times a week, filming loudly, rearranging displays to fit her video backgrounds, and ranting to customers on live streams about how overpriced everything was. His boss gave him one warning. When Maddie showed up again and started fighting with a coworker on camera over why the showroom wouldn't give her a collab discount, they dragged Jason into the office and told him he was finished. All at once, the guy who told me to stop being dramatic when my laptop nearly smashed on the concrete was jobless, surviving off whatever scraps were left in the diner account and my mom's loan. The neighborhood sensed the strain before my family ever did. My old neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, walked into Coastal Grind one afternoon with her granddaughter. She hugged me like nothing had shifted and after ordering leaned over the counter. "I'm sorry about how your mom treated you, mija," she said softly. We could hear them arguing at night. The younger one, the wife, was always shouting about money. My mom yelling. I could easily imagine Ashley ranting about cash while filming content at the same time. It made everything feel worse. And the diner was clearly slipping. The food still tasted fine, but wait times dragged on. Calls stopped getting picked up. Messages stacked up unread in their inbox. With no real promos in place, slow days stayed dead. A few Coastal Grind regulars mentioned it offhand. "We used to go there, but it takes forever now. And whoever runs their Instagram is kinda rude." The way they described the replies sounded exactly like Maddie. Fake nice, low-key passive-aggressive. I kept my mouth shut, just nodded, and said we were happy to have them. I did not need to push anyone away from my mom. She was handling that herself by handing her business future to a girl who cared more about ring lights than loyal customers. Around the same time, the bank started calling. Rachel told me one of her coworkers at Coastal Grind was seeing a guy who worked at a local branch. He could not share specifics, obviously, but he casually mentioned a lot of small businesses were stretching themselves too thin on remodels and influencer deals, especially older owners who had no clue what they were signing. I did not need to ask if my mom was one of them. I already knew. Late one night, while adjusting ad targeting for our next event, my phone lit up with a number I did not have saved but instantly recognized. My mom had found a way to text me from another phone. The message was short and icy. "We need help with the diner's online stuff. Send the login." I stared until the words went fuzzy. No apology. No asking if I was okay, if I had a place to stay, if I was eating. Just "we need help." For a moment, the old instinct kicked in. The good daughter instinct. Fix it. Rescue them. Make it easier. Then I remembered my suitcase thudding onto the driveway. The sound of my clothes shoved into a trash bag. My mom's voice saying, "You don't deserve to be here." I typed one sentence. "I don't work for you anymore. You told me I was in the way. I hope you figure it out." Then I blocked that number too. At Coastal Grind, our numbers kept rising. After our second sold-out event, Ethan pulled me aside, showed me the revenue charts, and said, "Whatever you need to keep this going, you've got it. Investments in better gear, more ad spend, longer hours, all of it." The contrast nearly made my head spin. On one side of town, my family was sinking under debt they took on chasing a fantasy. On the other, people were finally paying me for work I had been doing for free since I was a teen. I was not sabotaging them. I was not breaking into their accounts or deceiving their customers. I was simply no longer propping up their delicate balance. And without me there, all the pressure they had stacked onto their tiny universe had nowhere to land except straight down. The truth about money trouble is it never stays silent for long. You can cover cracks with paint and burn candles to mask the odor, but sooner or later everyone realizes something is decaying. It began with small remarks from customers at Coastal Grind. People would casually say they had tried to support my mom's diner, but the wait times had become insane, or that they placed online orders and the food arrived cold. One woman said she had messaged the diner's page about a wrong order, and whoever answered basically told her to relax and stop acting entitled. I did not need to wonder who sent that reply. Ashley treated customer complaints like direct attacks on her personal brand. While she was fighting people in Instagram DMs, the bills at home kept piling higher. The first real blow landed when my mom returned to the bank asking for another loan. The remodel of my old bedroom had gone over budget. The garage spa project was burning cash. Jason had been unemployed longer than he admitted, and my mom had been relying on credit cards to pay vendors whenever the diner's cash flow dipped. She walked into that bank convinced that since she had been approved once, they would help her again. Instead, she walked out with a letter that said no. Too much existing debt, not enough collateral, unstable income. Interest on the loan she already had was rising, late fees were stacking. From what I later heard through Rachel's endless web of cousins and co-workers, my mom went home that day and tried to cancel the garage renovation completely. It was not because she suddenly got smart with money. It was because she finally felt the ground shake beneath her. But by then it was already too late. Ashley had already ordered half the furniture and equipment on a credit card. My mom had co-signed for a shiny chrome skincare cart, a high-end towel warmer, fake plants and minimalist wall art, glass jars meant for bath salts. She justified every purchase as business-related, but none of it ever reached the hands of paying customers. She filmed unboxing videos and morning routine reels in rooms still coated with construction dust. Jason, desperate to feel like the head of the house again, supported her every swipe. It is going to pay off. He kept saying, you have to spend money to make money. Meanwhile, the diner was bleeding its reputation dry. Without a consistent social media plan or decent customer service, slow days stayed empty. Food took longer as they tried to cut labor costs. Deliveries were delayed because Ashley tried to handle routes herself around her filming schedule. One of the longtime regulars, Mr. Thompson, a retired teacher who had been eating pancakes at that diner since before I even existed, walked into Coastal Grind one morning. He took a corner table, ordered a coffee and a breakfast sandwich, then looked at me with a kind of shame in his eyes. I tried, he said. I really tried to stick with your mom, but that girl she hired, the one always filming herself, she made me feel like I was a burden just for asking to have my eggs warmed up again. His voice cracked on that last word. I topped off his mug and thanked him for being straight with me. I knew he was not alone in feeling that way. When I finally caved and checked the diner's page from a burner account late one night, the shift was harsh. Blurry photos, sloppy captions packed with typos, defensive clapbacks to bad reviews. The warm neighborhood place I had spent years shaping into something people were proud to tag now looked like a joke version of itself. While their online image was falling apart, things inside the house were getting worse. Quiet arguments turned into full-blown shouting. Neighbors who used to sit outside and talk in the evenings now shut their doors and blasted the TV. The cops were called at least twice when Ashley went off on loud tirades about money, loyalty, and how nobody respected her sacrifices. The same woman who had looked at my old bedroom and seen nothing but a backdrop for her videos was now boxed in by half-finished projects and overdue bills. My mom, who once took pride in being a good neighbor and a reliable small business owner, was turning into the woman people whispered about and avoided. And in the middle of all that, she still tried one last time to use me. She knew my number was blocked, so she cornered Rachel after a late shift, waiting outside Coastal Grind like a customer, but never stepping inside. She asked how I was doing. When Rachel said I was fine and grinding hard, my mom did not ask where I was staying or if I needed anything. She jumped straight to business. She told Rachel the diner was hitting a rough patch and that Ashley was still figuring out social media. If Emily just comes back to help with the online stuff for a while, she said, we can get through this. She can stay in the guest room until things settle. The way Rachel explained it later made my stomach knot. That easy assumption that I would come running back to the same house where my stuff had been tossed into a trash bin, like nothing had happened, like she was doing me a favor. Rachel told her no. She told my mom that I was building something new, that I had a job where people valued me, that I was not coming back. My mom's face hardened. She said I was being dramatic, that family forgives and moves on, that I should not hold on to anger over one bad day. When Rachel told me all of this, I did not cry or yell. I just sensed a sort of worn-out clarity. My mom did not miss me. She missed what I had done for her. She did not want her daughter back. She wanted her unpaid social media manager back. At Coastal Grind, things were moving the other way. Our app numbers were rising. Our events were selling out. I persuaded Ethan to bring back the old delivery driver my mom had let go. He knew the neighborhood, knew the people, and he was thrilled to be treated like a real person instead of a disposable service. We added more routes, including one that looped right by my mom's diner. Customers in that area started ordering from us instead because our food arrived hot, on time, and with a thank you note in the bag. I made sure every interaction felt personal, not fake influencer personal, real. When the landlord of my mom's building finally sent an official notice about late rent and potential eviction, the news spread quietly through the neighborhood. Commercial landlords in that part of San Diego do not play around. They tolerate a lot, but not repeated late payments and obvious financial chaos. My mom tried to stall him, promising things were turning around, that they just needed a little more time. But the numbers on her ledger did not care about promises. Standing in the back room of Coastal Grind, watching our revenue charts climb while hearing through the grapevine that my childhood home and my mother's livelihood were on the brink, I felt something I am not proud of and will not sugarcoat. Relief. Not because they were suffering, but because for once their choices were finally catching up to them instead of landing on my shoulders to fix. I had spent years being the invisible net under their bad decisions. Now, for the first time, I had stepped aside, and as cruel as it sounds, there was a dark, quiet satisfaction in knowing that the fall they were feeling was not my fault. It was gravity. The notice on my mom's diner door went up on a Tuesday. It was a plain white sheet of paper with black printing, the kind landlords use when they are done asking nicely. According to what Mrs. Alvarez told one of our baristas, my mom pretended it was a misunderstanding at first. Said the check must have gotten lost in the mail. Said she would sort it out by the end of the week. But there was nothing left to sort. The loan payments, the renovation bills, the credit cards, the late rent, it all came due at once. The bank would not extend anything. The contractor wanted his money. The landlord, a man who had owned half that strip of shops for as long as I could remember, had already lined up a new tenant in case my mom defaulted. That tenant was Coastal Grind. Ethan had mentioned a possible expansion a few weeks earlier. Nothing concrete, just an idea. We were bursting during peak hours, turning away people on weekends. When he asked me where I thought the perfect second location would be, I did not hesitate. I told him about the corner where my mom's diner sat, about the foot traffic, the parking, the history. I never shared my last name. I never said it was where I grew up. I simply presented the figures, the audience, the upside. Ethan ran his own checks. The landlord verified my mom was late and barely keeping up. He recognized a chance to swap a sinking tenant for one that was scaling. Business can be ruthless like that. By the time the eviction notice appeared, the lease with Coastal Grind was already being put together. I did not need to sign a thing. I only watched the emails stack up, renovation plans that actually made sense, a refreshed kitchen setup, smarter seating, real capital backed by real cash flow. Across town, my mom's world was caving in. The house I was raised in had a second mortgage weighing it down. Between the loan for the bedroom studio that never really launched and the half-finished garage spa, there was almost no equity remaining. Jason and Ashley argued non-stop. She yelled about how he wrecked her shot at being a wellness influencer, how his family was holding her back, how she deserved more. He shot back about her spending, her attitude, the way she spoke to my mom. None of them brought me up until it was time to pin blame for the online disaster. Then suddenly it was all my fault again. If Emily had not taken everything with her, if Emily would just come back. If Emily cared about family at all. When the final lease deadline passed and the landlord told my mom she had to be out by the end of the week, reality finally clicked for them. The diner was gone. The house, with no steady income to cover its mortgage and growing bills, was next. They sold whatever they could, furniture, appliances, and the sad and used vanity lights from my old bedroom. Jason grabbed shifts as a delivery driver for any app that would approve him. Ashley tried to rebrand her content as raw, honest struggle, but her small following did not want to watch her vent from a cramped motel room instead of a curated set. By the time they showed up at my apartment, they had run out of moves. It was 2 weeks after the eviction notice, just before sunrise on a Sunday. I had crashed on my couch after working late on a launch campaign for the new Coastal Grind location. At first, I thought the pounding was part of a dream. Then I realized someone was leaning on my doorbell and slamming the door with their fist again and again. My heart jumped into my throat. I grabbed my phone, moved quietly toward the door, and checked the peephole. My mom stood there, hair disheveled, eyes puffy, wearing a jacket I had never seen before, the kind of cheap, thin thing you buy when you did not expect to be stuck in the cold. Jason was beside her, shoulders sagging, dark circles under his eyes. Ashley hovered slightly behind them, arms crossed tight in a sweatshirt with the logo of a gym she no longer attended. There were suitcases and plastic bags stacked at their feet. I didn't open the door. I slid the chain lock into place even though the deadbolt was already set and cracked it just enough to catch my mom's voice. "Emily, please," she said. For a second, she sounded like the woman who used to make dinosaur pancakes for me when I was 6. "We need to talk. We messed up. Just let us in so we can explain," Jason added. "We were wrong, okay? We were wrong about you. We lost the diner. We lost the house. We don't have anywhere else to go." Ashley stayed quiet, but tears streaked her mascara. It would be a lie to say I felt nothing. My stomach twisted. My chest ached. My heart slammed so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. These were still my blood. Still the people I'd spent most of my life serving in one way or another. But I also remembered the trash bin, the sound of my suitcase hitting the driveway, the sentence, "You don't deserve to be here." I thought about how many times they reached out only when they wanted something fixed, something marketed, something saved. Not once did any of them ask if I had a bed. Not once did they apologize without attaching a request. The pounding got louder as my mom's voice cracked. "Please, Emily. The landlord took everything. We found out Coastal Grind is moving in there." "Is that where you're working now? Did you know?" I took a breath, stepped back from the door, and dialed a number I never thought I'd call on my own family. When the dispatcher picked up, my voice came out calm and flat. "Hi," I said. "There are some people outside my apartment building who won't stop banging on my door. They've been shouting and causing a disturbance. I don't know them. I'm alone and I don't feel safe. Can you send someone to check it out?" The words tasted bitter, but they weren't a lie. "Not really." I hung up and went back to the door. My mom was still begging, her words starting to blur together. "Emily, we need a place to stay just for a little while. You can help us get the diner back. You know how to talk to people, how to fix things. You're good at this. You always have been." Jason finally looked straight at me through the narrow gap. "You don't understand what it's like out there," he said. "Motel, side jobs, everything is so expensive. We're family. You're supposed to help. That was the moment something in me went very still. I cracked the door just wide enough for them to get a clear look at my face, the chain still locked. I met their stare while I talked. You're right about one thing, I said. I am good at this. I am really good at fixing things. That's why Coastal Grind hired me. That's why. Starting next month, there will be a brand new cafe in the exact place where you tossed my future in the trash. My mom blinked. What are you talking about? The landlord needed a new tenant, I went on. He wanted someone reliable, someone expanding. Ethan asked for my input. I told him your location was perfect. We signed the lease. We are ripping out the inside and turning it into something better. Ashley's face tightened. You stole our business. She snapped. You ruined us. I shook my head. No, you did that when you spent more on ring lights than on payroll. You did that when you fired good people and insulted customers. All I did was stop holding your world together for free. Sirens wailed softly in the distance, drawing closer. My mom sagged against the door frame, suddenly looking older than 50. I never wanted this, she whispered. I just wanted you kids to have more than I did. Then you should have started by not throwing away the one person who already knew how to build something. I said quietly. The flashing lights washed the hallway blue and red. An officer stepped out of the elevator a moment later, hand resting lightly on his belt. Expression professional. Is everything okay here, ma'am? I opened the door just enough for him to see my mom and siblings, then stepped back. They've been here banging and yelling for a while, I said. I asked them to leave. I don't feel safe letting them in. My mom stared at me like she did not recognize the person standing in front of her. The officer kept it simple, asking them to move along, reminding them they could not loiter in the hallway or disturb other tenants. There was no dramatic arrest, no handcuffs, just a quiet, humiliating walk back down the corridor with their suitcases and plastic bags. As they shuffled past me, my mom reached out, fingers brushing the door frame where my hand had been. I'm still your mother, she said, voice breaking. I did not flinch. I just met her eyes one last time. You told me I didn't deserve a place in your home, I said. Now you know what it feels like to be on the other side of that door. Then I closed it, slid the chain back, and leaned against the wood, heart pounding, knowing that for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself over the people who thought I would always choose them, no matter how hard they pushed me away. The grand opening of the new Coastal Grind location felt like stepping into an alternate timeline where my life had taken the right turn years ago instead of last month. The building was the same one I had spent half my childhood in, but everything inside was different. The greasy carpet was gone, replaced by polished concrete and warm wood. The old sticky booths had been swapped for bright tables, soft chairs, and a long bar facing the windows. There were plants in the corners, soft music playing, and the smell of good coffee and fresh pastries instead of burnt oil. The only thing that stayed the same was the way the morning light poured in through the front windows. Those same windows I used to scrub after class while my mom counted bills out back. Now I stood by the front door with a Coastal Grind badge clipped to my shirt and a tablet in my hand, watching people stream inside. Some curious, some already loyal to our first location. A few faces from my old life paused when they noticed me. Isn't this where your mom's diner used to be? One of them asked softly. I smiled and gave a nod. It is, I said. Things change. Life moves on. And sometimes it moves in the direction it should have gone in the first place. We had spent weeks prepping for this launch. Special menu items, local art lining the walls, a fundraiser tied to opening week where part of the profits went to a homeless outreach program downtown. It felt deliberate, like we were giving something back to the city instead of just occupying space. Ethan gave a short speech about small businesses and community and growth. When he thanked me publicly for leading the strategy, people clapped and my face burned. There was a time when I would have shrunk under that attention, worried my mom would roll her eyes or tell me not to get a big head. This time, I let myself stand there and take in the sound. I did not invite my family to the opening. I did not send them photos or rub anything in. I later learned from Rachel that Jason had taken a job loading trucks in a warehouse on the edge of town. Ashley left a few weeks after the motel episode, piecing together a half-believable story online about needing to focus on her mental health while quietly following a guy with a bigger paycheck to another state. Her accounts went silent after that. No more unboxing videos, no more morning routines, just a final post about fresh starts that got fewer likes than she hoped for. My mom ended up in a small apartment a few miles from the old house, the kind with thin walls and a balcony barely big enough for a folding chair. She got a job as a line cook at a chain restaurant, flipping burgers on someone else's clock, taking orders instead of writing her own specials on a board. Rachel spotted her once at a bus stop, uniform in a plastic bag, staring at her phone like she was waiting for a miracle message to put everything back the way it was. There were moments sitting in the back office of the new cafe after close when I thought about calling her just to hear her voice, just to see if maybe losing everything had humbled her enough to listen instead of accuse. But every time I came close, the memory of that trash bin and the words, "You don't deserve to be here," rose up like a wall. Love without respect is just a softer kind of control. I was done being controlled. Instead of pouring energy into fixing people who did not see my worth, I poured it into the community we were building. We put together resume sessions for teens chasing their very first paycheck. We organized supply collections for local shelters. I also began guiding a few younger baristas curious about marketing, showing them how to launch simple campaigns and understand analytics, so nobody could brush them off as just kids glued to their phones. One evening, closing up by myself, I sat at a corner table and replayed everything that had unfolded. From the driveway to that hallway washed in police lights. That was when it hit me that the real revenge was not the lease, the eviction, or even seeing my family deal with the fallout of their decisions. The real revenge was building a life that stood on its own without needing their approval to matter. People love repeating that blood is thicker than water. As if that means you owe family endless loyalty no matter how poorly they treat you. But here is what I learned the hard way. Family is not only the people who share your last name. It is the ones who show up when you are stuck in a doorway with 2 trash bags and nowhere to land. It is the friend who hands you her bed and crashes on the couch without making it awkward. It is the boss who actually reads your ideas and sees promise instead of unpaid work. And it is you choosing, every single day, to protect the version of yourself that survived being told you were not enough. I am not saying you should cut off everyone the first time they hurt you. I am saying notice patterns. Notice who only reaches out when they need you to fix something. Notice who tosses your future in the trash and then expects you to save theirs. Sometimes the bravest move is walking away quietly, not burning anything down, and letting people see what their life looks like without you holding it together. It is not about being heartless. It is about finally knowing your own worth. So if you have ever been told you were a burden or that you did not deserve your place, ask yourself this. What would happen if you stopped apologizing for existing and started building something that was yours, even if that meant leaving them behind? And if you have your own story about family taking you for granted until it was too late, share it. Someone out there needs to know they are not the only one standing on a driveway with their whole life in a trash bag, about to choose themselves for the first time.